Have you ever stood in front of a room full of executives, your heart pounding, wondering why your brilliant science isn't connecting? You've spent months perfecting your data, yet their eyes are glazing over faster than cells in a bad freeze-thaw cycle. I get it. You're thinking, I'm a scientist, not a salesperson. My data should speak for itself. The frustration is real. You've dedicated your career to rigorous methods, not crafting stories. It feels almost wrong to package your science like you're somehow betraying your training. But here is the truth. The most brilliant bioprocess technology in the world changes nothing if nobody understands why it matters. In the next 10 minutes, I'll show you exactly how I transformed a technical presentation into a compelling story that won the first prize in an innovation contest, without sacrificing scientific integrity. Your ideas deserve to be understood, not just documented. Let's begin. Picture this. A Zoom call with 10 small boxes showing judges' faces, most with camera off or looking down at other screens. We were one of the many teams to present that day. It was a company-wide innovation contest, and we were armed with a few slides filled with our most compelling data, carefully curated process optimization results, key analytical findings, and critical technical specifications that we knew would demonstrate the value of our innovation in our limited 7-minute window. Yes, that's right. We only had 7 short minutes to pitch our idea. We had spent weeks preparing. Our science was solid. Our innovation had potential to monitor critical quality attributes in real time. But as we shared our screen, I could feel our opportunity slipping away. In the tiny thumbnails, I could see one judge was clearly typing emails. Another had that glazed over expression that screams, I'm mentally somewhere else, without body language cues or eye contact. We were losing them before we'd even begun. That's when it hit me. These judges, a mix of executives and technical leaders, had to evaluate 10 complex projects in a few hours, all through the exhausting filter of video calls. They weren't specialists in our particular technology. How could we expect them to grasp our innovation significance when we were just another set of slides on their screen? Unlike most scientific presentations, we had purposefully chosen a different approach from the beginning. We started with why. Sharing my experience from just a few weeks earlier when I was part of a troubleshooting team where our innovation would have completely changed the game. Yes, that's right, I was telling a story. I painted the picture of frustrated scientists, failed batches, and a therapy that couldn't reach patients reliably. Then showed how our technology bridged that gap. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly, or shall I say on the call, because it was a virtual pitch. Judges put down their phones, they leaned forward, questions became strategic rather than merely clarifying. While other teams had equally strong technical solutions, we won because our story made our impact memorable and clear. One judge later simply told us, your pitch nailed it. We hadn't changed our technology. We had changed how we communicated it. This experience transformed how I approach scientific communication forever, and it revealed a paradox many of us face as scientists. As scientists, we spend years mastering technical knowledge like cell culture optimization, analytical methods, protein characterization, and so much more. We become experts at designing experiments and interpreting data. But here is the painful truth. Most of us receive almost no training in how to communicate that knowledge effectively. Think about the last scientific presentation you sat through. Chances are it started with methods and technical details. The slides were probably packed with small font and excessive data. The presenter likely followed the same chronological structure as a scientific paper. And emotion? Well, no, come on, we're scientists, there's no emotion. And storytelling, no, I mean, we can tell stories later after work, but not in a technical presentation, come on. These elements were probably nowhere to be found. And I don't know if you have wondered once, but I don't know. Why is it that we pack that many things into one slide? Are the slides so expensive, or what is the problem? Why can't we just divide the content into 2 slides, for instance? Anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. I have just wondered. So, this approach works fine in the lab. But step outside that environment and it fails spectacularly. Why? Because decision makers, whether they're executives, founders, or investors, have limited time and very technical backgrounds. Their brains, like all human brains, are wired for stories, not data dumps. Even at scientific conferences, have you noticed how you remember the presentations with clear narratives while forgetting those that were technically sound but lacked a compelling story? That's not a coincidence. It's neuroscience. Like many scientists, do you recoil at the idea of selling? It feels inauthentic, right? Perhaps even contrary to scientific principles. But here is the uncomfortable reality. You are already selling. Yes, whether you acknowledge it or not. You sell when you pitch your project to leadership for approval. You sell when you ask peers to collaborate. You sell when you present to investors for funding. You sell to regulatory bodies for approvals. And ultimately, you sell to patients and healthcare providers who need to adopt your innovation. Simon Sinek captured this perfectly. He said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. There is a persistent myth in scientific circles that good science speaks for itself. Have you heard that already? If that were true, the most funded science would always be the most technically sound. But is that what we observe? Often the most funded science is well-communicated science. Work whose importance is made crystal clear through effective storytelling. Think of it this way. Your brilliant bioprocess optimization means nothing if you can't secure the resources to develop it further. Your groundbreaking assay is worthless if regulators don't understand its value. And your life-saving therapy won't help patients if physicians can't grasp why they should prescribe it. Let me share a fascinating experiment conducted by Rob Walker and Joshua Glenn. They purchased ordinary objects from thrift stores for around $1.25 each. Then they added fictional stories to each object and sold them online. What was the result? These $1.25 items sold for a much, much higher price. On average, the price was 6,259% higher. Objects worth about $1 or $129 in total sold for nearly $8,000, simply because they had stories attached to them. Why does storytelling have such a power? Neuroscience offers compelling answers. When we experience suspense or cliffhangers in a story, our brains release dopamine, a neurotransmitter that improves focus, motivation, and memory. When stories evoke empathy, our brains produce oxytocin, the trust hormone that builds human connection. And when stories include humor, our brains release endorphins, which are reducing stress and creating positive associations. So this isn't just psychological theory, it's biological reality. Our brains are literally hardwired to respond to stories. Let's take the simple Pixar story spine format that demonstrates this well and how accessible storytelling can be. It says, once upon a time there was blank. Every day blank. One day they did something blank. Because of that, blank. Until finally they were happily ever after, for instance. Does this sound familiar? Yes, it does. It's pretty much every story, pretty much every movie you watch follows this very story spine. Now apply this to science, and suddenly complex information becomes digestible. Abstract concepts gain emotional resonance, and key points become memorable long after your presentation ends. I once met a former colleague many years after, and he said, "Hey, David, I loved your presentation so much, about the Ferrari." And I thanked him for the feedback, but I didn't remember that presentation anymore. But he did remember it because it was about that Ferrari, but it was some kind of technical presentation. So you see how powerful storytelling and images can be. So consider a technical presentation about cell culture media optimization, for instance. You could start with methodologies and statistical analyses, or you could begin with, once upon a time, there was a promising therapy that couldn't be manufactured at commercial scale. Every day, batch failures threatened patient access. One day, we discovered a critical nutrition limitation. Because of that, we developed a new feed strategy until finally we achieved consistent 95% batch success rates, meaning thousands more patients could receive treatment. The same data and a completely different impact. If you're feeling resistant to these ideas, you're not alone. Let's address the most common objections I hear from fellow scientists. Storytelling means sacrificing accuracy and detail. This assumes story and data are mutually exclusive. They're not. Stories provide the framework into which technical details fit. Think of this way. The story is the map, while data are the landmarks. Without the map, landmarks exist in isolation with no clear path between them. Here is another objection. Emotion has no place in scientific communication. Research contradicts this directly. All decisions, even technical ones, have emotional components. We justify decisions rationally after making them emotionally. Even the most analytical mind responds to emotional engagement, often unconsciously. Or this objection. I lose credibility with my peers. This fear is particularly strong among scientists. But examine the most cited papers in your field. Chances are they tell compelling stories about why the research matters. Clear communication doesn't diminish credibility, it enhances it. Before preparing your next presentation, ask yourself 3 questions. First, who is my audience and what do they care about? Are they technical peers, business leaders, investors, or regulators? Each requires a different emphasis. Second, what is the one problem I'm helping them solve? Note that I said one problem because clarity trumps comprehensiveness every time. Third, what will success look like if they adopt my idea? Paint a vivid picture of the future state you're creating. Remember, you're not dumbing down science when you tell stories. You are making ideas accessible. You're not selling out. You're ensuring your science has impact. So let's try this simple exercise. Practice explaining your current project to a smart 12-year-old. If they understand why it matters, you have found your story. If they are confused, keep refining it. The most brilliant science never changes the world if it stays trapped in the lab. Remember that. That's so important. Your ideas deserve to be understood. And storytelling is how you make that happen. And speaking of making your ideas understood, in our next episode, I'll share a practical framework you can apply immediately. We'll explore the 3-act structure for scientific presentations, and I'll give you a step-by-step template for what I call the minimal viable pitch, perfect for those crucial 3 to 5 minute opportunities with decision makers. It worked for our pitch. I have taught that over and over and over again to a lot of innovative scientists who had just 3 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes to pitch. And you know what? It worked every single time. You'll learn exactly how to transform your next presentation from data heavy to decision ready. I know what you're thinking right now. This sounds all great, but I've got assays running, deadlines looming, and a team meeting in 30 minutes. When am I supposed to learn storytelling on top of everything else? I hear you. The weight of scientific excellence already feels crushing some days. But here's the truth. Storytelling isn't an extra burden. It's a lifeline. It's a difference between your brilliant work gathering dust and changing lives. Between getting funded or forgotten. And between influencing decisions or being ignored. You've already mastered complex cell cultures and protein characterization. You've decoded genomic and metabolic mysteries and optimized bioprocesses. Compared to that, storytelling is the easy part. The world desperately needs your innovations, and you may need additional funding to keep your startup going. Patients are waiting. Don't let your breakthroughs stay trapped in technical jargon and dense slides. Your science deserves to be understood. Your ideas deserve to spread. And you brilliant scientists already have everything you need to make it happen. Do you need help with an upcoming presentation? Well, book a free 20-minute consultation at brühlmannconsulting.com and we'll help you get started crafting a compelling scientific story that resonates with your audience. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think about this. And can you just take 1 minute to leave a review on the platform you found us on? This would mean the world to me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in part 2 of our episode. All right, smart scientists. That's all for today on the Smart Biotech Scientist podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on your journey to bioprocess mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. By doing so, we can empower more scientists like you. For additional bioprocessing tips, visit us at smartbiotechscientist.com. Stay tuned for more inspiring biotech insights in our next episode. Until then, let's continue to smarten up biotech.